Hi, hello, and welcome to the channel. I'm Lady Celine, and today we are getting back to Chapter 4 of Chaos Head Noah. In the last one, we were going back and forth between the cops that we know. They were exploring the gravitational anomaly that seems to be happening in Shibuya that really seems to be affecting all of this weirdness and chaos around us. We were going back to Takumi and Fess. So we're back in the tunnel with, or should I say, Fess says, how is he gonna handle seeing two women at once? I don't think it's gonna go well, but let's find out. Oh, so this is Fess saying it. Why do you think that Shibuya attracts so many youths? Suddenly, the conversation I was having with Fess transitioned into something completely unrelated, but I was actually somewhat relieved by that. I'd expected Fess to start treating me like a pervert, but she just ignored it like nothing had even happened. Like I wasn't bulging out of my pants right now. Japan, no, even if you examine the entire world, you would not find many places similar to this one. Did this have something to do with D-swords? If not, then I didn't care. I had to somehow find a way to get Fess to tell me how to get my hands on a real D-sword. Neither Shinjuku or Ikebukuro. Shibuya. The name of the city has taken on a life of its own. Both in front of and behind me, the same words were being spoken from the two Fesses at the exact same time. Perfect synchronization. It gave me a somewhat strange feeling. Had Fess split in half? Were both of them the real Fess? Or were both of them imposters? There is a thought engraved to the hearts of all men across Japan, that this city carries the name the City of Youths. Why is that? Why? Well, that has absolutely nothing to do with me, of course, duh. Because the city is ripe with fashion? Because it is populated heavily with stores? Because many trends originate here? Because it appears often on TV? Because the public transportation is favorable? No, it is none of those. The two Fesses paused for a moment. Being watched from both in front and behind started to make me feel very uncomfortable. It is because of the greater will. The will of a higher being, or, to put it simply, the will of God. This is bad, my rational side warned me. Could this be... Maybe she was trying to recruit me into some sketchy religious cult. I began to feel uneasy. Man, maybe I should just get the heck out of here. But upon hearing the next thing Fess said to me, I realized I no longer had that option. D-swords, too, are guided by this will. Oop, okay. To begin, you've got this thing called gravity. I'm sure you've heard of it. Bon returned to the main street from the alleyway, and then began walking towards Shibuya Station. Suwa, who now assumed they were going to Shinsen, chased after his senior detective with an obvious frown on his face. You mean the law of universal gravitation? Real good head you've got on your shoulders there. Not surprising considering the nice college you came out of. Suwa grew discouraged in response to Bon's slightly mocking tone. Well, unfortunately, I didn't study the occult at my university. What do you mean? This doesn't have anything to do with the occult. Yeah, that's what I was thinking. I was like, wait, where did that come from? We're literally talking physics, right? There are these areas scattered across the world where gravity is unbalanced. Several of them. Unbalanced? Okay. That's what's causing the pendulum to form the elliptical shape. They call it the GE rate in English. GE rate. Let's see. What did it stand for? Gravitational energy? Gravitation? Gravitation era? If we're talking gravity here, then could it be gravitation? Gravitation error rate? Ooh, okay. That sounds right. Oh yeah, that's it. You got it. Gravitation error rate. So yeah, if it's high, then that means there's going to be more, or that means it's more unbalanced. Translating that literally would give you number of universal gravitation anomalies, I would think. I'm sure you'd be able to find it if you sifted through a physics dictionary. Is that where you got it from? Is that a real thing? The GE rate, an imbalance that contradicts the law of universal gravitation. Discovered by Isaac Newton, the law of universal gravitation is a fundamental force of nature that acts between all forms of energy and matter, i.e., anything that contains mass. It is commonly believed that the great number of strata layered upon the Earth's surface play a large part in this law. A typical example of something that disturbs local areas would be lava beds. This phenomena can be found at the foot of Mount Fuji, Aokigahara, also known as the Sea of Trees, where there have been several recorded instances of compasses becoming unusable. Okay, yeah, that's, I think that's how we have the Bermuda Triangle, too. That makes sense, actually. Studies have also shown that fossil beds particularly rich in iron and calcium are another type of stratum in which magnetism is repelled. Adding on to the previous factors, magnetite is believed to have a particularly strong influence on gravity. If magnetite, a naturally occurring magnet with an octahedral crystal structure, were to be found beneath the Earth in a quantity large enough to warrant being recognized as a dike, it would be as if the ground itself were a magnet. This would then result in an extremely high chance of the area producing minute gravitational deviations. The GE rate is the measurement of the gravitational values in a region in which such values have been distorted by the previously mentioned geological strata. Okay, this is making sense. I actually like learning something here. When Bond's explanation concluded, the two men who had been walking the entire time were just exiting into Dogenzaka. The scenery surrounding them instantly turned bright and dazzling. I've heard that the average GE rate in Shibuya is one of the highest recorded in the world. I've even heard that there have been cases in which a ball placed at the foot of a hill goes right on up all by itself. I think I've heard of that. Maybe this is why they had the earthquake a few months ago. But if he's talking about like strata of Earth, that means that these like gravitational anomalies have been around for a long time. But the earthquake was a few months ago was notable, so maybe that's not it. Are you serious? Suwa, who had been listening in utter silence up until now, showed his surprise with a slightly exaggerated tone. Sounds like a world ripped straight out of a sci-fi flick. You enjoy that type of stuff? I'm not a big fan of the convoluted ones. The large-scale epics are what I'm really into. It's all Greek to me. Your explanation sounds pretty darn plausible, but it's still fairly hard to believe. I'd never even heard of a GE rate before today. Don't act like your ignorance applies to everyone. A gumshoe needs an objective view of the facts. And that's true, but what Sua said was equally true. The research into the GE rate was minimal, and it was certainly not something that would be taught to an everyday college student. Bon himself had not even been aware of it until a few weeks ago. For starters, you still haven't answered the most important question. So the gravity of Shibuya is unbalanced, I got that, but what does that have to do with young people being attracted here? There's a surprisingly big causal relationship between gravity and humans, you know? Did you know that the biorhythms of all living things are affected by the moon's gravitational pull? Also true! It ain't just the tides, it's also women's periods. I've heard about how the moon has an effect on a sea turtle spawning. Yeah, like it can feel when it's gonna be either high or low tide, I think. That kind of sounds about right. Yeah, something like they only lay eggs on the night of a full moon. So yeah, I think that would be a higher tide, that would be more water. But it's not just sea turtles. Coral is another species that only spawns on full moon nights. Oh, that's cool, I didn't know that. Oh yeah, that's the thing where it looks like it's snowing on the ocean, right? It's been scientifically proven that gravity's much stronger on full moon nights. Like, the gravity of the Earth, or just from any direction? Because obviously that means the moon is exerting its gravitational force on the Earth. So, naturally, this ends up affecting humans as well. What, like with childbirth? Not just childbirth. Biorhythms, like I said before. They're closely related to normal physiological phenomena, of course, but they also have an effect on traffic accidents, illnesses, appetite, libido, stuff like that. You know how they say blood rushes to your head when you get excited? That's from the moon's gravitational pull. Oh, is that why we have lunacy? More blood to the brain, and that's why there was like a theory that the lunar cycle had to do with a person's craziness or presentation. Is that like, yeah, people go crazy with the full moon, and that's why we call it lunacy. It's all related. That's a bit of a stretch. That's like saying that the feelings of individual people don't matter, and that it's all the moon's fault. Well, I wouldn't go that far. No, I think it's more so that the moon has a different effect on different people in a way that could lead them down certain paths. It has to do with a thing called crowd psychology. The moment someone arrives in this town, they might feel exhilarated, or maybe like doing something just a little reckless. Then this likely applies to people's reactions to the string of new gen incidents. That's true, everyone does seem pretty hyped up about it. All the folks in this town who have seen the news are more or less having the same reaction. Every last one of them's enjoying it. They all revel in the feeling that it'll never happen to them, that it's just somebody else's problem. Dude, that's so true. So are you saying that the GE rate is also responsible for this type of crowd psychology? Possibilities there. I'm not quite sure how. I want Bon to explain a bit more about that. If it's subconsciously ingrained into the minds of youngsters that, say, coming to Shibuya is a real hoot, then that's why so many young people are attracted to this place. Huh. Sua really is a fast learner, Bon thought to himself, impressed. The junior detective was still young, but that part of him truly was worthy of praise. In addition, what set him apart from the other young people was that he did not just follow his seniors blindly. Whenever he had a question, or whenever he thought something did not make sense, he would always voice it, despite the fact that he was just a junior in name. In name. Now that we more or less have a handle on what the GE rate is, how are we going to use it to catch the culprit? If these recent incidents were influenced by the GE rate, it'd be pretty strange if something similar hadn't happened over the past few centuries. Bro, that's what I'm saying! Which means our next step is to get an expert to look into it. A specialist. Okay? You're not gonna do it yourself, sir? Nah, man, he probably doesn't have... He doesn't have nearly enough knowledge. You do have to consult with a specialist for shit like this. Me? I'm just a detective. Bond smirked from ear to ear. The only thing I plan on looking into is new gen. Which is why I skipped out on work today, so I could measure the GE rate at the crime scene, okay? If the crime scenes we've had up until now all show abnormal GE rates, what do you think that might mean? So, like, you can just go crazy in certain places? No way! Sua's eyes went wide and he stopped dead in his tracks. It seemed as if he had realized what Bon was trying to imply. The incidents all happen in places with abnormal GE rates? If that's true, then that means we can somewhat predict where the next crime might take place. We don't know that for sure yet. That's why we're gonna have it investigated. There was something lurking within this city. Something yet unknown, hidden deep beneath its flashy exterior. Perhaps it was akin to Pandora's box, something not meant to be touched by the hands of men. Thoughts such as these pervaded Bon's mind as he watched the pedestrians file down the streets of Shibuya. Yep, alright. D-swords, too, are guided by that will. As soon as I heard those words, I knew I couldn't take it anymore. Fess had been going on and on about all these things I didn't care about, all while continuing to dodge what I'd actually asked her. I couldn't possibly care any less about some greater will, or why Shibuya attracts young people, or whatever else. There was only one thing I wanted to know. How do I get my hands on a D-sword? Mustering up my courage, I asked Fess that question. Again. Tell me! Without changing her aloof expression, Fess gazed down at the D-sword she was holding. Despite how gigantic the sword was, she seemed to be handling it with incredible ease. Maybe she just had an absurd level of physical strength or something. It isn't something one can teach. Why not? Why is it that you'll go on and on about all this random shit? You can't tell me the most crucial thing I need to know? I mean, honestly, that's fair. I would feel frustrated by the same shit. You must find it yourself. I do not know of any methods. Oh, man. You don't know? Then how in the living fuck did you get the D-sword you're holding in your hand right now? However, D-swords can only be seen by those who possess the power. So, in other words, those without the power couldn't see them? But I could see it extremely clearly. Yeah, bro, you have some kind of power. But then, what did she mean by the power? Was she saying that I had supernatural powers? Like what the two fesses in front of me had? You can see my sword, can you not? That can only mean one thing. If Shogun and Yua were destroying my life because of it, then I didn't want this stupid bullshit power. But I did still want a D-sword. because it'd grant me salvation. Fess had said so. Stuff like the greater will and the reason why Shibuya attracted young people made no difference to me. I didn't want some random power, nor did I want to be roped into all this BS in any way, shape, or form. But in order to escape the clutches of Shogun and Yua, I had to get my hands on a sword. Feel it. Feel the will chosen by the world. But Fess's answer was as ambiguous as every other damn thing she'd said. Biting my lip, I tried desperately to think of any way I could extract the information from her. But as a person who was terrible at talking to 3D people, I couldn't think of anything that would be effective at all. I tried to pull from my bank of eroge situations, but everything that came to mind was fairly unsettling, such as slipping her an aphrodisiac, tying her up, or imprisoning her. Man, I may or may not be extremely fucked up. Wow, rare moment of clarity from this dude. What is your name? Huh? Fess turned her back toward me, then slowly began to walk deeper into the tunnel. I am Kishimoto Ayase. When she said that, I realized we still hadn't introduced ourselves to each other yet. Nishijo Takumi? I couldn't see Fess Ayase's expression from where I was. Why she was laughing, I didn't know. Let us meet again, Takumi. Ayase was moving farther and farther away. This is where I leave you, or something like that. I fearfully turned my head to see what happened to the other Ayase. Probably gone, yeah. Only to find out that she had disappeared without a trace. Had she literally disappeared? Or had she just walked out of the underpass? Ayase had said that the other Ayase was a delusion. Maybe that was the power of the D-sword. I returned my gaze to the inside of the underpass, and right as I did, I saw that Ayase was going up the other staircase, which was about 50 meters deeper into the tunnel. Eventually, her figure disappeared completely, and now all that remained was the eerie silence of the underpass. I wasn't brave enough to yell after her. I was too exhausted to run after her, and I was overwhelmed with the feeling that it wasn't worth the trouble. In the end, all I could do was return home as cautiously as I could, making sure not to be spotted by Yua or the police on the way. Yep. Okay, cool. Looks like we made it home. It felt like it had been ages since I'd last been in my base, but in reality, it'd only been half a day. I'd left my computer on, leaving my Seratan screensaver to cast a pale light together with her smile across the dark room. I locked the door tightly from the inside and threw myself onto the sofa. When I closed my eyes, I couldn't help but remember everything that had happened today. I couldn't believe even the police thought I was the culprit. They had it all wrong. There was absolutely no way I could have killed all those people. Investigate like you actually give a shit. This isn't a game. Otaku freaks like myself were ostracized by society, so they must have thought that they could just pin the crime on one of us and the public wouldn't even bat an eye. They couldn't actually catch the real culprit, so they wanted to save face by using me as a scapegoat. Damn it, what could I do to clear my name? The scene at At Cafe flashed before my eyes, sending a chill down my spine. There existed someone that was even more terrifying than the police. Yua, my enemy. I had been so unbelievably relieved that I hadn't heard anything from her recently. I had been growing more and more confident that she'd never contact me again. But today, I realized that I'd been mistaken. In order to oppose all of them, I needed a D-sword. I glanced at the cheap sword that was leaning against my PC desk. It was a fake. Ayase had said that only people with the power can see them. The day I'd bought my sword, Nanami had seen me with it. And unlike Ayase and Senna's swords, it didn't glow. Where would a real one be? I had to get my hands on one as soon as possible. I don't know, try imagining what you saw with Ayase happening to you, about like something opening up in front of you and you pulling a sword out. Try that. Just try it. If I didn't, I was doomed. Getting wrapped up in something this insane, it sucked so much. You know, God forbid anything interesting happens in your life, man. You have DID, multiple personalities. No, that's not true. It's impossible. Multiple personality disorders are supposed to be rare in Japan. You've been watching way too many goddamn movies, Yua. It's rare all over. It's rare all over the world. This is not a common thing. I don't have multiple personalities. There's no proof of that at all. Well, not true. It's not true. But that chat log is consistent with what Yua told me. It's all fabricated. It can't be considered proof. But there's no proof that I don't have multiple personalities. My doctor never diagnosed me with multiple personalities. But that very doctor, Dr. Takashina, is now gone for some unknown reason. I'm me. I know that better than anyone. But I don't actually know myself. I felt chills on the nape of my neck. The usual presence. Someone was watching me. The unknown gaze. Whose eyes are those eyes? Yeah, that's right. It's Shogun. He's the killer. That's what it said in the chat log, right? Wait, did it? And Yua is one of Shogun's underlings. The new gen cases were all Shogun. But does that Shogun truly exist? Are you sure he isn't just a delusion? I'm normal. I'm completely normal, right? I clutched my head and shouted out to no one in particular, but what I got in reply was, "You've got mail, you big dum-dum." Sarah? I sluggishly made my way over to the computer and checked my email. I only know one person to email you. Okay, never mind. It's not Yua. Just thought, maybe. The sender was Grim. Found something interesting was the subject line. It was probably just bait, and the contents of the email were meant to fuck with me. I didn't have the energy to deal with him personally right now, so I stuck to just reading the email. Oh, do I gotta read I don't know if I gotta read this. Neidhart-kun, why haven't you joined the chat room at all? You haven't been on ESO either, so I had no choice but to email you. It's a YouTube link. I would have told you to watch this vid because it's seriously fucked. I know what you're thinking. It's probably just Grim fucking with me. But no, it was recorded by the new gen perp. The net's going absolutely insane over it. Hurry up and watch it before you miss the hype. Shake my head. A video that had been recorded by the new gen culprit? My fingertips on the mouse began to tremble. I couldn't take my eyes off the email. Did that mean the killer was in the video? I doubt it, man. Who was it? No, was it me? I both wanted to see it and didn't want to at the same time. This was the proof. Proof that I wasn't the killer. Or proof that I was the killer. Which one it would be, I didn't know. It was a gamble. Feeling my heart begin to beat faster and faster, I moved the mouse cursor and hovered over the link. But I couldn't work up the courage to click the URL. I want to help you. Shut up. Don't treat me like a criminal. Don't act like you feel sorry for me. I didn't do it. You're the one on the criminal side, Yua. In an intense fit of rage, I clicked on the URL. What are we seeing? Group dive video recording. Oh, okay. Oh, we've got several videos here. Okay, it was a YouTube video. The word loading appeared in the video window. It's not me, it's not me, it's not me, it's not me, it's not gonna be me, it's not gonna be me. I'm not on this. It's not me, it's not me, it's not me, it's not me. In reality, it only took about 10 seconds for the video to load, but those 10 seconds felt like an eternity to me. Eventually, it finished loading and the video started to play. Oh shit, okay. It was a video of a very dark place. The background was pitch black. Maybe it was indoors. I leaned my head in close to the monitor, trying my best to parse the information on the screen. Group dive video. Okay, so is this related to this must be related to the, the group dive case. These might be our 5 people that didn't make it out. It was dark and therefore hard to see, but there were several men and women there. They were all making a ton of noise. Maybe it was because the bitrate was too low, or maybe because the people in the video were too distraught, but I couldn't make out a single thing they were saying. Every once in a while, whenever someone screamed violently, the sound would clip horribly. After watching for a bit longer, I was able to determine that there were 5 people in the video. If you included the cameraman, it would be 6. The cameraman didn't enter the frame at all. Because of how dark it was, the faces of the 5 people were just barely visible. As though to comfort one another, they were caressing each other's heads, patting each other's shoulders, and hugging. I could also hear the high-pitched sobbing of a girl, likely overcome with emotion. It was definitely bizarre, but how did this video have any connection to New Gen? Was the person filming this really the New Gen culprit? At the very least, I knew I had no memory of recording something like this. Oh, I think we're on the rooftop with the 5 people before the group dive, which means that it would have to be the culprit. Like, they're the ones that, re-locked the door after everyone got up here. In theory. I don't know. They all seem like they don't want to be doing this, but maybe they know they're going to. And then, after a short while, the camera, or rather the person holding the camera, began to slowly move forward. The 5 subjects, who were about 5 meters away from the cameraman, gradually grew larger and larger. The picture was fairly grainy. Maybe the original image data was re-encoded at an extremely lower bit rate in order to reduce its size. A modern video camera should have a night vision function, so I wondered why the cameraman hadn't made use of it. Maybe it could have been an older camera? As soon as I thought that, the camera suddenly panned to the left, then to the right, showing the surrounding scenery. What I had initially thought was just the pitch-black darkness of a room was actually the night sky. In other words, the video had been recorded outdoors. As for the reason why there wasn't a single building or anything, it was because the video had been taken on the roof of a skyscraper. Yep, okay, I was right. The 5 people were on the edge of the roof of a very tall building. Right behind them was the ledge, and right below that ledge was the glittering nightscape of Shibuya that could only be seen at high altitudes. This is... Finally, I understood. I finally understood what this video was. I finally understood why it was said to have been recorded by the new gen culprit. The group dive. A locked room mystery in which a group of 5 men and women jumped from the roof of Cornelius Tower. The sole fact that remained unclear about New Gen was whether or not this specific incident was a murder case or a group suicide. If this video was of the 5 people who jumped to their deaths, then that would mean that there had to be a 6th person at the scene when the incident occurred. Oh, I realized I had a moment where I thought maybe the camera was on, what do you call it? Tripod? But I don't know if these kinds of motions could be controlled remotely. Like, I feel like there would have to be someone moving it around like they are. The 5 people shown in the video hadn't just been making noise for the sake of it. They were all slumped down on the ground, crying and shouting as they huddled together. They all refused to give up, despite the fact that they were fated to die soon. One was shaking their head in denial as they cried. One was clutching their hair tightly as they fell to their knees, their shoulders heaving with each sob. One was pleading with the cameramen as they sobbed, asking why they were doing this. One had already gone mad and was laughing as tears streamed down his face. It was a rabid, violent desire to stay alive, a fervent, intense plea to not die. Disconsolate indignation that screamed, "Why is this happening to us?" Innumerable raw emotions swirled around the group. Yet, in a bizarre juxtaposition, the cameraman's voice was never heard once. The cameraman was eerily calm. Gee, yeah, almost like he's like forcing them into this or something. This feels like some Saw shit. Like they all have been told that they gotta jump and are panicking. Yeah. Stop it! Stop it! No matter how much I pleaded with the footage that had been taken nearly a month ago, nothing was going to change. I knew full well that it was meaningless, but I subconsciously screamed at my monitor all the same. These people don't want to die! With no possible way for my words to reach them, the camera the cameraman was holding moved even closer to the 5 people. Terrified, the 5 of them all tried to crawl away, to get away from the camera. But they couldn't. Right behind them was the very edge of the helipad. There was no guardrail of any kind. The 5 of them had nowhere to go. If they moved back even a little bit farther, they would fall. Refusing to heed the 5's pleas for their lives, the cameraman continued to focus solely on filming, as if to agitate the 5 all the more. He had driven them completely to the edge, to the point where they took no further action at all. I don't know, can one of them maybe try to lunge at him? Uh-oh. Then, without any sort of cue, nor any form of signaling one another, the 5 people who had all been crying out in grief suddenly fell silent. Then they all stood up. The wind on the rooftop of the Cornelius Tower was powerful. Beckoned by the wind, the 5 of them nearly staggered. If there was even the slightest misstep, they would fall. Oh, but they're sitting. Like, that should keep them safe, right? As if in preparation for such a thing, the 5 men and women all joined hands, seemingly in resignation. They grasped each other's hands tightly. Stop. Stop it. Don't be crazy. Silence. It seemed to me that even the sound of the wind whipping violently through the air had stopped. All I could hear was the sound of cars driving along Shuto Expressway at the foot of the building. Even then, the cameraman did not make a single move. And then, a single person among the five whispered, "Whose eyes are those eyes?" I froze in front of the monitor, feeling as though my heart was being strangled by an ice-cold hand. Why? Why those fucking words again? Wasn't this supposed to be the first new gen case? Whose eyes are those eyes had been the dying message from the vampire case, and that one came forth. This didn't make any goddamn sense. Paying no mind to the screaming inside my head, the video continued to play. Hand in hand, the 5 men and women slowly stepped out into the empty air, almost as if there was a path laid out before them. And then, just like that, the 5 fell into the nightscape of the big city. I bit my lip and covered my eyes. Ooh, you could hear that? The group dive hadn't been a mass suicide. It, too, was a murder case. The culprit had been there when it had happened. And as for who'd filmed the video, I knew who it was. Shogun? Mixed in with the sound of the strong wind on the rooftop. Mixed in with the sounds of the 5 people crying out in grief. Mixed in with the blaring horns from Shuto Expressway below. I was certain that I had heard one particular faint sound. It was the sound of creaking steel. A sound that could only be heard when the cameraman was moving forward. The sound of a wheelchair. Yo, it is Shogun. What appeared in front of me back then was real. Oh yeah, when Shogun, popped up. The camera's line of sight was far too low. Shogun. And that ends the chapter. That wraps it up. Except we have no fucking D-sword. Come on. We didn't even learn how to get one. I'm not actually mad, but I am looking forward to finally figuring that shit out. So maybe chapter 5? Thank you so much for watching if you've made it this far. If you liked the video, go ahead and give it a like. If you didn't, keep it to yourself, put it in the comments, really whatever. And subscribe. Some scriddly scrum diddly umptious scribe, so that you can find me in the next one. I hope to see you there. Bye!